They shamed the Vampire King's mate. Until he came back for her a full vampire romance audiobook by Shadow Howl's Tale. When Lady Cordelia cornered me at the Vampire Court's autumn gathering and asked with that poisonous smile, "Still clinging to that pathetic mate mark, pet?" I felt the words cut deeper than any blade. 3 years. For 3 years, I had endured this. The whispers, the pointing, the laughter that followed me through every hallway of Raymond Taylor's former kingdom. The mate mark on my neck, his mark, the one he burned into my skin the night he claimed me, pulsed like an open wound that refused to heal. "The Vampire King doesn't want you," Cordelia continued, her entourage of sycophants closing in around me. "He's dead, or worse, he realized what a mistake you were and simply left." I stood there in my simple gray dress, the only one I owned anymore after being denied access to everything Raymond had promised me, while she wore crimson silk worth more than I'd eaten in a month. I loved him. I had believed him when he said I was his forever, and then he vanished without a trace, without a word, without even a goodbye. 3 years, 8 months, and 22 days of being the Vampire Court's favorite punching bag, of being spit on in the streets, of having doors slammed in my face at establishments that once bowed to me, of clutching that burning mark on my neck every night and wondering if I'd imagined it all. The photos on the court's social media made it worse. There I was, barely visible in the background of their lavish parties, standing alone while they celebrated. The abandoned mate. The delusional human girl who thought she could hold a Vampire King's heart. Until tonight. Until the ballroom's crystal chandeliers exploded in a shower of glass and darkness, and every vampire in that room froze in primal terror. Until he walked through those shattered doors, Raymond Taylor, the Mafia Vampire King, alive, more powerful than I'd ever seen him. His eyes, those red eyes that haunted my dreams, swept across the ballroom like hellfire seeking kindling until they locked on mine. And then his voice, cold as death and twice as final. "Who touched my mate?" I watched Cordelia's face drain of color. I watched the pointing fingers that had mocked me for 1,387 days begin to tremble. I watched the entire court that had treated me like garbage realize they'd made a catastrophic mistake. Because he was back. And God help them all. Chapter 1. The Return of the King. The ballroom's emergency lights flickered to life, casting blood-red shadows across marble floors. And there he stood, Raymond Taylor, the Mafia Vampire King. My mate. The man who'd abandoned me to 3 years of hell. He looked different, more dangerous. The expensive blood-red suit clung to his frame like a second skin, and his presence, God, his presence suffocated the room. Every vampire within 50 feet dropped to their knees, heads bowed, trembling. But his eyes, those red eyes that had haunted my dreams and nightmares both, they swept across the ballroom like a predator counting prey. Searching, hunting, until they found me. The world stopped. The mate mark on my neck erupted. Not the dull burn I'd endured for 1,387 days, but a wildfire. Red and silver light burst from my skin, connecting us like a rope pulled taut after years of slack. The bond, the cursed, beautiful, agonizing bond, came alive for the first time since he'd vanished. My knees buckled. I would have collapsed if Lady Cordelia's grip on my arm hadn't tightened in shock. "Impossible," she breathed. He's supposed to be... Raymond moved. 1 second he was across the ballroom. The next, he stood before us, and the temperature plummeted. Frost crept across the floor from where his feet touched marble. Every vampire in Cordelia's entourage scattered like roaches when the light turns on. Except Cordelia. She was too terrified to move. "Repeat," Raymond said, his voice soft as death. "What you just said to my mate." My lord," Cordelia stammered, backing away, her face drained of color. "We thought you were gone. She was unclaimed. We didn't mean... She bears my mark." His hand shot out, gripping Cordelia's throat, lifting her off her feet. "She is my claim. You thought wrong." I should have looked away, should have felt horror at what came next. But all I felt was savage satisfaction as Lady Cordelia, who'd spit on me, mocked me, made my life a living hell, turned to ash in Raymond's grip. Her scream cut off mid-breath. Her body crumbled to dust that scattered across the marble like dirty snow. Silence. Absolute, terrified silence. Then Raymond turned to me. The monster vanished from his face. His eyes softened, just slightly, just enough for me to see the man beneath the king. He moved slowly, carefully, as if approaching a wounded animal. He shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it around my shoulders. The fabric still held his warmth, his scent, cedar and smoke, and something uniquely him. My body betrayed me, leaning into that warmth despite everything. "Heaven," he whispered, cupping my face with hands that had just killed. My heaven. The slap echoed through the ballroom. My hand stung. His head barely moved. Supernatural durability. But the shock on his face was worth it. Worth every eye watching us. Worth the gasps from the remaining vampires. "Where were you?" My voice cracked on the last word, 3 years of anguish bleeding through. His jaw clenched. "Keeping you alive." "I wasn't alive," I hissed, shoving against his chest. He didn't budge. "I was barely surviving. Do you know what they did to me? He pulled me against him, crushing me to his chest despite my resistance. His arms locked around me like iron bands, and I hated how safe I felt, how right. "Never again," he said, his voice breaking for the first time. "I swear on my immortal life, Heaven, never again." Then he turned to the ballroom, still holding me, his voice carrying to every corner. "Heaven Judge is my fated mate, my queen, and the only creature in this world I would burn empires for." His eyes flashed red, promising violence. "Anyone who touched her has until sunrise to flee my territory. After that, I hunt." Before I could respond, before I could process any of it, he swept me into his arms. "Put me down," I said weakly. "No." He carried me through the ballroom while vampires knelt and averted their eyes. Through the grand doors, down marble steps, to a car that screamed money and power, sleek, black, armored. The ride was silent, tense. I stared out the window, watching the city lights blur, trying not to feel the mate bond singing in my chest like it was celebrating. Raymond's hand found mine on the seat between us. I didn't pull away. But I didn't intertwine our fingers either. His mansion was exactly what I'd imagined and never seen. Gothic architecture, all sharp angles and dark stone. Expensive but cold. The home of a king who'd lived alone for centuries. He led me to a bedroom. Not his, I noted. Guest quarters. Luxurious, impersonal. "This is yours," he said. Everything here is yours. I don't want things, I said, my voice sharp. I want answers. His jaw tightened. Tomorrow, tonight, you rest. I've been waiting 3 years for tomorrow. The words exploded from me. Tell me now. Where were you? Why did you leave? Why didn't you come back? I was protecting you. By leaving me defenseless, I screamed. Do you know what they did to me? They spit on me, chased me through streets, locked me out of your properties, denied me food, shelter, dignity, and you weren't there. Something in him snapped. A mahogany dresser exploded into splinters. The mirror shattered. He moved so fast I barely saw it, destroying furniture with his bare hands, rage pouring off him in waves. I know. His roar shook the windows. I felt every moment, Heaven, every tear, every insult, every second you suffered. The mate bond. It doesn't break just because I'm not there. I felt it all. His chest heaved. His eyes blazed red. And then, quietly, destroyed. I loved you. I waited for you. My voice was hollow now, empty. And you weren't there. I know. He sank to his knees before me, this ancient vampire king, and pressed his forehead to my hands. And I will spend eternity making it right. I let him tend to my injuries. The bruises on my arms from where Victor had grabbed me 2 days ago. The scratches from running through alleyways to escape court vampires who thought an unprotected mate was fair game. His fingers were gentle, reverent, trailing over each mark with barely contained fury. It never faded, he whispered, tracing the mate mark on my neck. You never gave up on the bond. I tried to. The confession came easier than I expected. I clawed at it, burned it, begged the universe to break it, begged you to let me go if you were out there somewhere. Pain flashed across his face. But you couldn't. No. I met his eyes. Fated mates don't get that mercy. He leaned in, slowly, giving me time to pull away. His lips almost brushed mine. I turned my face. You don't get to touch me like that, I whispered. Not yet. Every instinct in him screamed to claim, to mark, to possess. I could feel it through the bond, his vampire nature demanding he complete the mating. But he pulled back. Then tell me what I need to do. His voice was raw. I'll do anything. Exhaustion crashed over me like a wave. 3 years of running, of surviving, of hoping and breaking and hoping again. It was too much. Start by telling me the truth, I said. All of it. Chapter 2. The Queen's Vengeance. I woke to silk. For a moment, one blissful, disorienting moment. I thought it was a dream. The softness beneath me, the sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. The scent of cedar and smoke that meant safety. Then the mate mark thrummed, and I knew. He was here. He was real. Last night happened. I found him in his study. He hadn't slept. Vampires didn't need much rest, but this was something else, obsessive. The massive oak desk was covered in files, photographs, documents. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, tie discarded, hair disheveled from running his hands through it too many times. Raymond? His head snapped up. Those red eyes softened when they found me. You should be resting. I've rested for 3 years while waiting for you. I moved closer, drawn despite myself. What is all this? He hesitated, then gestured to the files. Everyone who hurt you. My breath caught. There were dozens of them. Manila folders, each labeled with a name and a photograph. I recognized the faces immediately. The vampires who'd made my life hell. Lord Henry, Ella, Victor, Cordelia's brother Damien. Each file was thick with documentation. Dates, locations, detailed accounts of what they'd done to me. How did you— I still have loyal people, Raymond said quietly. They've been watching over you, even when I couldn't. Watching? The word came out like a gunshot. Watching! They let all this happen! They were ordered not to intervene unless your life was in immediate danger. His jaw clenched. I thought if they protected you openly, it would paint an even bigger target on your back. I thought— He stopped, started again. I was wrong. I picked up a file. Lord Henry, the vampire who'd spit on me outside Raymond's locked estate, laughing as I pounded on doors that wouldn't open for me anymore. I need you to confirm these, Raymond said. Tell me what each one did. Each photograph was a knife to the chest. Lord Henry. Outside the estate gates, 3 months after Raymond vanished. The king's whore begging for scraps. The glob of spit hit my cheek. I'd been too shocked to wipe it away immediately. Ella. The restaurant where I'd saved for weeks to afford one meal. The poison in my food, something that wouldn't kill but would make me violently ill. Her laughter as I collapsed in the bathroom. Victor. The alley. His hand on my throat, fangs extending. No one's coming to save you, little mate. I'd only escaped because a street vendor interrupted. Damien. The social media posts. Doctored photos of me with other men captioned, "The king's abandoned slut already moved on." The death threats that followed. My hands shook so badly I dropped the last file. Raymond caught it, caught me. His arms wrapped around me from behind, solid and steady. Every single one, he said against my hair. Every single vampire who touched you will answer for it. Why didn't they help me? The question I'd been too afraid to ask. Your loyal people, why did they just watch? Because I ordered them to. His voice was hollow with self-loathing. I thought I was protecting you. I thought if Constantine believed you were truly abandoned, truly alone, he'd leave you as bait. Wait for me to return and come for you. And then he'd have both of us. Raymond turned me to face him. But he underestimated how cruel my own court would be. I never imagined. His control cracked. I felt every moment through the bond heaven, every tear, every humiliation, and I couldn't do anything but endure my own prison and feel yours. Then why? I pulled back. Why didn't you take me with you? Why didn't you tell me? Because you were human. The words hung between us like a death sentence. 3 years ago, an ancient vampire elder named Constantine contacted me, Raymond said. He threatened to drain you dry and make me watch, to torture you until I surrendered myself. My blood ran cold. I went to end him, Raymond continued. Quickly, permanently. I didn't expect him to have an entire coven backing him. Didn't expect the trap. His hands clenched. They put me in a supernatural prison, the kind that feeds on vampire power to maintain itself. The more I fought, the stronger it became. Tortured you? For information about my network, my alliances. They wanted to dismantle everything I'd built. His eyes met mine. Every day, I felt your pain through the bond. Every insult. Every moment you thought I'd abandoned you. And I couldn't tell you why. Couldn't risk them knowing the mate bond was still active, that you still mattered to me. So you sacrificed me instead. The words tasted bitter. My sanity, my dignity, my will to live. Yes. No excuses, no justifications. I was wrong. I failed you. The room was too small suddenly, too suffocating. I moved toward the door. Raymond blocked it, not aggressively, desperately. I escaped that prison for you, he said, raw and bleeding. Tore through Constantine's guards for you. I came back because living without you wasn't living. It was just existing, suffering. Then why do I still feel alone? The words ripped from somewhere deep and dark inside me, and the temperature dropped. Frost spread from where I stood, crystallizing across the hardwood floor. The windows frosted over. My breath came out in white clouds. Raymond's eyes widened. Heaven! What? Silver light erupted from my skin. Not the red of the mate mark. Not Raymond's crimson power. This was mine. Pure, blinding, otherworldly silver that poured from my hands like liquid moonlight. Furniture flew. Windows shattered. Papers scattered in a whirlwind of supernatural force. And I was levitating. 6 inches off the ground, surrounded by silver fire, power I'd never known I possessed pouring from me in waves of barely controlled fury. You're not human, Raymond breathed, awe and terror mixing in his voice. Then everything went black. I woke to whispers. Dormant for this long. It's extraordinary. What is she? A Nephilim. My eyes opened. Raymond sat beside me, gripping my hand like I might disappear. An older woman with silver hair and knowing eyes stood across from us, examining me with clinical interest. Welcome back, she said. I'm Morgana, your mate's most trusted advisor. What happened? My voice was hoarse. You awakened, Morgana said simply. Your Nephilim blood finally manifested. Nephilim. The word felt foreign on my tongue. Half angel, half human. Your bloodline was thought extinct, hunted down by vampire elders centuries ago because Nephilim blood can kill us permanently. No resurrection. True death. The room spun. I'm not human? You never were, Raymond said quietly. That's why you could feel the mate bond when humans normally can't. Why you survived 3 years in a hostile vampire world with only a mark to protect you. Why Constantine's coven feared you enough to isolate you. Morgana nodded. The mate bond activated your dormant powers. Raymond's return accelerated the awakening, and Constantine didn't just want him imprisoned. He wanted you vulnerable, unaware, and powerless. I was the real target, I whispered. You were always the real target, child. Morgana's expression softened. You're the Vampire King's equal in power. Perhaps his superior, once you learn control. I looked at Raymond. At this ancient, terrifying vampire king who just learned his mate could kill him if she wanted. He was smiling. Magnificent, he breathed. You were always magnificent, Heaven. I was just too blind to see it. Constantine is still out there, I said once I could stand without my legs shaking. Raymond tensed. Let me handle... No. I cut him off with a look. We handle it, together. Or I walk away from this bond right now and learn to control this power on my own. Every instinct in him screamed to protect, to shield, to fight my battles for me. I could feel it through the bond, his vampire nature warring with what he knew I needed. Finally, he nodded. Together. Morgana taught me the basics. How to call the silver light without destroying everything around me. How to channel it into focus bursts instead of explosions. It wasn't mastery, that would take years, but it was enough. Enough to defend myself, enough to stand beside Raymond instead of behind him. We trained in his private courtyard, away from prying eyes. He taught me vampire combat, how they moved, how they fought, where they were vulnerable. I taught him the limits of my new power, what drained me, what I could sustain. And in the quiet moments between training, something shifted between us. He'd watch me with this expression, half awe, half regret, like he was seeing me for the first time. I'd catch myself leaning into his touch when he corrected my stance. The mate bond hummed between us, patient and inevitable. "I'm calling a court gathering," Raymond announced 3 days later. "Mandatory attendance. Every vampire faction in my territory." "Why?" "Public accountability." His smile was cold. "For crimes against my mate." "And Constantine?" "He'll come, he won't be able to resist." Raymond's eyes met mine. "This ends heaven. One way or another." I insisted on formal presentation. If I was to be queen, if I was to stand before the court that had humiliated me, I would look the part. They dressed me in midnight blue, almost black, with silver embroidery that matched my new powers. The mate mark was enhanced with ritual tattoos that made it shimmer. They taught me how to stand, how to move, how to look at vampires like they were beneath me. When Raymond saw me, he stopped breathing. "You were always a queen," he said, voice rough. "I just failed to give you the throne." They came at dawn, Constantine's assassins, elite vampire warriors, sent to kill me before I could be presented to the court. "Get behind me," Raymond snarled. "No." Silver light flared in my palms. "We fight together." There were 6 of them, ancient, powerful, trained for centuries in death. We destroyed them in under 10 minutes. My Nephilim powers manifested fully. Silver light that burned vampires on contact, wings of pure energy that spread from my back. Raymond's protective fury combined with my offensive power created something devastating. Unstoppable. We were perfectly synchronized, the mate bond letting us anticipate each other's moves. But victory came at a cost. 3 of Raymond's guards lay dead, bodies scattered across his ruined courtyard. I knelt beside one, a young vampire named Thomas who'd taken a blade meant for me. "They died because of me," I whispered. "They died with honor," Raymond said, crouching beside me. "You gave them purpose, Heaven. Something worth protecting." We stood in the ruins as dawn broke. I was covered in ash from destroyed vampires. Raymond was covered in blood. None of it his. "Tomorrow we face the court," I said. "Constantine will be there. Are you ready?" I looked at my hands, still glowing with silver power. At the mate mark, pulsing steady and strong. At Raymond, who'd crossed hell itself to come back to me. "3 years ago, you left me defenseless," I said quietly. "Tomorrow I'll show them what happens when you give a Nephilim a reason to fight." He pulled me to him, and this time, when he leaned in, I didn't turn away. The kiss was desperate, claiming equal. The mate bond erupted in red and silver light, visible for miles, announcing to every supernatural creature in the territory, "The king has returned." and his queen has awakened. Miles away, Constantine watched the light show from his tower window. "Let them come," he said, smiling cruelly. "The half-breed doesn't know what she truly is yet, and when she does, she'll destroy him herself." He turned to the ancient tome open on his desk, the prophecy written in blood and older languages. "When light and dark unite as one, when angels' blood meets vampire's throne, one must consume, the other fall, or both shall perish, ending all." "Fate is a beautiful weapon," Constantine murmured, "and I've been sharpening it for 300 years. Chapter 3. The Coronation of Blood. The vampire court gathered at midnight. I'd been to this place before, the grand hall where Raymond's throne sat empty for 3 years, where I'd stood in my threadbare gray dress and endured their mockery, where Lady Cordelia had spit venom and the others had circled like sharks. Tonight I returned, but not as prey. The doors opened, and silence fell like a guillotine blade. I walked beside Raymond, not behind him. My gown was midnight and silver, custom-made to complement his blood-red suit. The mate mark on my neck glowed visibly now, enhanced by ritual tattoos that declared me not just marked, but chosen, claimed, equal. Every vampire in that hall dropped to one knee, not out of respect. I could feel their terror through the supernatural energy saturating the room. They knelt because the alternative was death, and they knew it. Raymond's hand rested at the small of my back as we walked the length of the hall. Not possessive, supportive. A king presenting his queen, not a master parading his pet. The difference was everything. We reached the dais. 2 thrones sat there now. One had appeared overnight, matching Raymond's in everything but the silver inlay that marked it as mine. "Rise," Raymond commanded. 300 vampires stood as one, their faces a mixture of shock, fear, and carefully hidden rage. I recognized so many of them. Lord Henry, pale and sweating despite vampires not sweating. Ella, her perfect composure cracked at the edges. Victor, who wouldn't meet my eyes. All of them had hurt me. All of them had believed I was nothing. 3 years ago, Raymond's voice carried to every corner of the hall. I was forced to leave my territory. In my absence, my mate, my fated mate, bearing my mark, was subjected to treatment that would make demons weep. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, uncomfortable shifting. "Tonight there will be an accounting." He gestured, and his guards brought forward a line of vampires in chains. 20 of them, the worst offenders from the files we'd reviewed. Lord Henry was first. "Spit on the king's mate outside his own estate," Raymond read from a file. "Called her a whore, spread rumors that she was unworthy of her mark." Henry fell to his knees, chains clanking. "My lord, we all thought you'd abandoned. She bore my mark." Raymond's voice was ice. "That was all the proof you needed of her worth. That was all the protection you should have required." He turned to me. "Heaven, what would you have me do with him?" Every eye in the hall locked on me. 3 years ago, I would have said nothing, would have forgiven just to survive, would have made myself smaller to avoid conflict. Not anymore. "He humiliated me at my lowest moment," I said, my voice steady. "Let him know that humiliation." Raymond smiled. It wasn't kind. "Strip him of his title, his lands, his wealth. Let him walk these streets as he made heaven walk, with nothing but the clothes on his back and the knowledge that he is unprotected." Henry's face went gray. For a vampire, that was the equivalent of exile. Homelessness. Vulnerability in a world where power was everything. "Please," he started. "Be grateful she's merciful," Raymond cut him off. "I would have turned you to ash." The guards dragged Henry away. One by one, we went through them. Ella, who'd poisoned my food, stripped of her court position and banned from Raymond's territory. Victor, who'd cornered me in that alley, sentenced to serve in Raymond's most dangerous outpost, where survival was never guaranteed. Some we showed mercy. Others, the ones who'd tried to kill me bad, who'd spread the cruelest lies. Those became examples. The hall reeked of ash and fear by the time we were done. "Let this be known throughout every supernatural territory," Raymond declared, his hand finding mine on the throne's armrest. "Heaven Judge is my mate, my queen, and under my eternal protection. Any creature who threatens her threatens me. Any who harm her will face consequences that make tonight look like mercy." The vampires bowed, murmured acknowledgement, pledged loyalty with the desperation of those who'd seen what happened to the alternative. But I felt it through my new senses, the undercurrent of resentment, of rage, of vampires who would bow tonight and plot tomorrow, especially from the shadows at the back of the hall, where older, more powerful vampires watched with calculating eyes. One stepped forward. He was ancient. I could feel it in the way reality seemed to bend slightly around him. Tall, elegant, with silver hair and eyes like frozen oceans. Power radiated from him in waves that made even Raymond tense. "Constantine," Raymond said quietly, the vampire elder who'd imprisoned him, who'd orchestrated everything. "Raymond." Constantine's smile was pleasant, cultured, absolutely terrifying. "How wonderful to see you've escaped my hospitality, and you've brought your pet." "Mate," I corrected before Raymond could respond. "And queen." Constantine's gaze shifted to me, and I felt it like ice water in my veins. He was old. Older than Raymond by centuries. Older than most things walking the earth. "Ah, yes," he purred. "The Nephilim. How extraordinary that you've awakened. Tell me, child, do you know why your bloodline was hunted to extinction?" "Because we can kill you," I said steadily. "Permanently." "Partially true." He moved closer to the dais, and Raymond's guards tensed. "But the real reason is much more poetic." He pulled a book from his coat, ancient, leather-bound, the pages yellowed with age. "Your bloodline was destroyed because of a prophecy, one that concerns you directly." He opened the book, and even from the throne, I could see the text was written in blood. "When light and dark unite as one, when angel's blood meets vampire's throne, one must consume, the other fall, or both shall perish, ending all." Constantine's smile widened. "Do you understand what that means, little Nephilim?" My blood ran cold. "The mate bond between a Nephilim and a vampire king isn't just rare," Constantine continued. "It's apocalyptic. Your powers are fundamentally opposed. Angel light that destroys vampires, vampire darkness that corrupts angels. The bond forces them together, but nature demands a reckoning." "You're lying," Raymond growled. "Am I?" Constantine gestured to me. "Have you not felt it? The way her power burns when you touch, the way your darkness makes her light flare in self-defense. You're fighting each other on a cellular level. Every moment you're together." I looked at Raymond, at the mate mark on my neck that suddenly felt like a time bomb. Even now, Constantine said softly, the bond is changing you both, consuming you from within. In time, months, perhaps a year, one of you will drain the other completely. The vampire will corrupt the angel, or the angel will purify the vampire unto death. There has to be a way to break it, someone in the crowd whispered. Oh, there is, Constantine's eyes glittered. Kill one of them before the bond completes its consumption. Better one dead than both destroyed, yes? The crowd murmured agreement, fear making them desperate. Or, Constantine continued, you could surrender to me, Raymond. I have resources, knowledge. Perhaps I can find a way to manage the bond, keep you both alive for a price. Your price being my throne and my network, Raymond said flatly. And your mate, of course. Such power shouldn't go to waste. I could use a Nephilim. Constantine's smile turned predatory. I could use her up. Silver light exploded from my hands. Not controlled, not measured, pure, instinctive rage that turned the air crystalline with frost and power. I am not a resource to be used, I said, my voice echoing with something otherworldly. I am not a weapon to be claimed, and I am not afraid of you. Wings erupted from my back, pure silver energy, spreading 15 feet on either side. The vampires nearest me stumbled backward, hissing as my light burned their skin. Constantine's smile never wavered. Magnificent. You'll be even more powerful when the bond finishes consuming your mate. Enough. Raymond stood, and his power rolled out to meet mine. Red and silver clashed in the space between us, and instead of destroying each other, they merged. The light turned crimson silver, swirling together like a storm made of starlight and blood. The prophecy book in Constantine's hands began to smoke, pages curling. That's not possible, Constantine breathed, his composure finally cracking. You said one must consume the other, I said, understanding dawn. But you never considered we might choose to share, to balance. Raymond's hand found mine, and the power stabilized. Red and silver, dark and light, spinning in perfect equilibrium. The prophecy is old, Raymond said, written by vampires who couldn't imagine a partnership of equals, who assumed dominance and submission were the only options. You'll still destroy each other, Constantine insisted, but doubt crept into his voice. The bond will demand. The bond demands nothing, I interrupted. We choose, every day, to balance, to share power instead of hoarding it, to trust instead of control. The prophecy book burst into flames in Constantine's hands. He dropped it with a curse, watching centuries of certainty burn to ash on the marble floor. This isn't over, he said coldly. The prophecy may be wrong about the method, but the outcome remains. Nephilim and vampire kings don't get happy endings. Then we'll write a new ending, I said. Constantine vanished, literally disappeared in a swirl of shadow and ancient power, retreating rather than fighting a battle he suddenly wasn't sure he could win. The hall erupted in whispers, speculation, fear, and awe in equal measure. Raymond pulled me close, his lips brushing my ear. That was extraordinary. That was terrifying, I corrected. He's right about one thing. We don't know if this balance will hold. Then we'll figure it out. Together. Together. The word that had once meant abandonment now meant something else entirely. The coronation ceremony happened at dawn. Raymond had wanted night, traditional vampire timing, but I insisted on sunrise. A statement, a promise. We are both. We are balanced. We fear neither dark nor light. The crown they placed on my head was silver and rubies. The vows we spoke were ancient, binding not just in law but in magic. And when Raymond kissed me before the assembled court, the mate bond sang so loudly that vampires 3 territories away reported feeling it. We stood on the balcony afterward, looking down at the courtyard where I'd once been mocked. "They'll never accept me fully," I said quietly. "Half of them will spend their immortal lives plotting my death." "Probably," Raymond agreed. "But they'll fear you, respect you, and in vampire society, that's better than love. Is it enough for you?" I turned to face him. "A mate who brings prophecies and assassination attempts and complications you never asked for?" He cupped my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone. "You are everything I never knew I needed. Every complication, every prophecy, every moment of chaos." His eyes, red meeting my silver, held nothing but certainty. "I would burn the world for you, Heaven, but more importantly, I would share my throne, my power, my immortal life as equals, even knowing the bond might kill us both? Especially knowing that," he smiled. "What's eternity without a little danger?" I kissed him then, there on the balcony where the entire court could see, where the mate bond could blaze red-silver for all the world to witness. When we pulled apart, the sun was fully risen, and neither of us had turned to ash. "You know Constantine will come back," I said. "I'm counting on it. And the prophecy, we don't really know if we've broken it or just delayed it. Then we'll face that together too." Together. The word that had once broken me now made me stronger. I looked down at my hands, at the silver light that danced between my fingers, controlled now, purposeful. At the mate mark that no longer burned with pain but glowed with chosen commitment. 3 years ago, I'd been abandoned, alone, powerless. Today, I was queen. Not because a vampire king claimed me, but because I'd claimed myself. My power, my worth, my right to stand beside instead of behind. The court might never fully accept me. Constantine would return with new schemes. The prophecy might find new ways to threaten us. But I was no longer the frightened girl in a gray dress, clutching a mark and hoping for rescue. I was heaven judge, Nephilim, queen, fated mate who'd survived hell and come back stronger. And I was done being anyone's victim. "Ready to face eternity?" Raymond asked, his hand finding mine. I looked at him. This ancient vampire king who'd learned to share power, who'd crossed hell itself to return to me, who held my hand like I was precious instead of possessing me like property. "With you?" I signaled. "Let eternity come. We'll rewrite every prophecy together." The mate bond hummed between us, red and silver, dark and light, perfectly balanced. For now. And if that balance ever faltered, if the prophecy found new teeth, if Constantine returned with armies, we'd face that together too, as equals, as partners, as mates who chose each other every single day. The vampire court bowed below us. The sun rose higher, and somewhere in the distance, Constantine plotted his next move. But in that moment, on that balcony, with our powers intertwined and our hands clasped, we were untouchable. We were infinite. We were exactly what every prophecy feared most. Two people who refused to let fate write their ending. The end.